I'm so happy to see each and every one of you again today. This is going to be our last lesson on Daniel, and that finishes our major prophets. We're going to start in chapter 11. We ended with verse 20, so we start with verse 21 today. This will be the last Saturday because next Saturday I have to do a wedding and we won't be having a class, just to remind you. All right. We will have a class next Tuesday. That will be our last Tuesday of the year. Okay, would you read for us verse 21 of chapter 11?
Daniel chapter 11 verse 21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries.
All right. The angel told Daniel that after the brief reign of the former king of the north, the next king would be a vile person. He would not be recognized as royalty, but shall take power by intrigue in his place. This was fulfilled in the successor of Seleucus III, named Antiochus IV. He did not come to the throne legitimately because it was strongly suspected that he murdered his older brother, the previous king. The other potential heir, the son of Seleucus III, was imprisoned in Rome. When it says he shall come in peaceably, apart from the murder of his older brother, Antiochus IV didn't use terror to gain power. He used flattery, smooth promises, and intrigue. He flattered Eumenes, king of Pergamus, and Attalus, his brother, and got their assistance. He flattered the Romans and sent ambassadors to court their favor and pay them the arrears of the tribute. He flattered the Syrians and gained their concurrence. Antiochus IV took the title Epiphanes, which means illustrious. Others derisively called him Epimanes, meaning the madman. Please read for us verses 22 to 27.
Daniel 11 verses 22 to 27. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with the small people. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, and spoil, and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, and he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall slain. Verse 27, And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. For yet the end shall be at the end, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed.
All right. He shall act deceitfully. The angel told Daniel that the new king of the north, the vile person of Daniel 11:21 that we read about, would attempt a deceitful covenant with the king of the south. This would fail, and there would be a great battle that would not change the balance of power. He shall stir up his power. This was fulfilled when Antiochus Epiphanes carried on the feud between the dynasties, but pretended friendship and alliance to catch them off guard. Despite massive efforts and epic battles, Antiochus Epiphanes did not stand, and his army was swept away. The defeat of Antiochus Epiphanes at his second campaign against Egypt was important because Egypt beat Antiochus with the help of Rome. At the end of it all, Antiochus Epiphanes and his kingdom were under the dominion of Rome. In a famous battle, the Roman navy defeated the navy of Antiochus Epiphanes. After the battle, a Roman general drew a circle around Antiochus in the dirt and demanded to know if he would surrender and pay tribute to Rome, and demanded to know before he stepped out of the circle. From that point on, there was no doubt. Antiochus Epiphanes took his orders from Rome and was under Roman dominion. Those who eat the portion of his delicacies shall destroy him. This was fulfilled in the treachery against Antiochus IV by his own counselors. 28 verses 28 to 35. The vile person turns on the Holy Land with violence.
Daniel 11 verses 28 to 35. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits, and return to his own land. At the time appointed he shall return, and come toward the south, and it shall not be as the former, but as the latter. For the ships of Shittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return, and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return, and have intelligence with him that forsake the holy covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. Verse 35, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed.
All right. When the vile person returned to his land, he would attack the land, the people, and the temple of Israel. It will be a time of great courage and great treachery among the people of God. So he shall do damage and return to his own land. This was fulfilled when Antiochus Epiphanes returned from Egypt. Bitter from defeat, he vented his anger against Jerusalem, which was already shaken because Antiochus sold the office of high priest and persecuted the Jewish people to conform to Greek culture, forsaking the faith and traditions of their fathers, while returning to his land with great riches. Failing in his invasion of Egypt, Antiochus Epiphanes returned home with only great plunder to soothe his wounded pride. Ships from Cyprus shall come against him. This was naval assistance from the Romans who helped the Egyptians turn back Antiochus Epiphanes. They shall take away the daily sacrifices and place there the abomination of desolation. Antiochus Epiphanes set up an image of Zeus at the temple altar. He demanded sacrifice to this image and later desecrated the temple by sacrificing a pig on it. It was in truth an abomination which brought a desolate condition to the temple, for now no one would come to worship at all. Those who do wickedly against the covenant he shall corrupt with flattery, but the people who know their God shall be strong. When Antiochus Epiphanes turned on Jerusalem, the Jewish people were divided. Some forsook their covenant with God and embraced Greek culture. Those who knew their God made a stand for righteousness in the face of incredible persecution. For many days they shall fall by the sword and flame, by captivity and plundering. In his attack on Jerusalem, Antiochus IV is said to have killed 80,000 Jews, taken 40,000 more as prisoners, and sold another 40,000 as slaves. He also plundered the temple, robbing it of approximately $1 billion by modern calculations. Did you hear that? He robbed the temple of approximately $1 billion. And this is by modern calculations, until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time. This terror could only last for as long as God had appointed it, and God had a purpose even for such persecution and blasphemy. Now, you know, when you hear of all that he did, it makes you think that he is the Antichrist, but no, he is not. He is merely a prefiguring and a type, you know, to give us an idea, a little bit of an idea, because the great tribulation is when the Antichrist is going to rule and reign. That is still in the future, because when it talks about the abomination that maketh desolate, all this is before Jesus ever came. All right, Jesus isn't even born yet when this takes place. And when Jesus is alive, he talks about the abomination that maketh desolate. So we know this Antiochus Epiphanes is not the Antichrist at all. All right. Now we're going to start the Antichrist, the end times Antiochus Epiphanes. In other words, and you know, when you read chapter 11, I had read it over and over and over. There's just no way you can figure it out. But everything we've told you is people from history itself looking back to what took place. It all fit in perfectly. All right. But starting with verse 36, the willful king, there's now going to be a shift to future fulfillment. And that, like anything else, you know, just like you take that chapter 11, if you don't have history to go by, you wouldn't know what it was talking about. So when it's talking about the future, you can't really say for sure because it hasn't really happened. You understand what I'm saying? So we have seen everything because of history books and taking it, but Daniel was written way back there, you know, a few hundred years before this Antiochus Epiphanes was even ruling or reigning. And all of that is before Jesus comes. So we know it cannot be. But now, starting with 36, we're going to start talking about future fulfillment. Would you read verse 36 for us?
Yes, Daniel 11, verse 36. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done.
Yeah. Now, where it said, and shall speak marvelous things, actually another rendering is shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods. Antichrist is known as the willful king. All right. The angel explained to Daniel that this king would blaspheme God, exalt himself until the wrath has been accomplished, and what has been determined by God shall be done. All right. When it says blaspheme above every God, here we shift from what was fulfilled in the Ptolemies and Seleucids to what will be fulfilled in the Antichrist, the final world dictator. Daniel was told that this revelation pertained to the latter days. Daniel 10:14. All right. Would you read that for us? We did that a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, Daniel 10:14. Now I am come to thee. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days, for yet the vision is for many days.
Yeah, in other words, it's not going to take place for a long, long time, only in the latter days. All right. And Daniel 11:36 begins to look more towards this final world dictator who is sort of a last days Antiochus Epiphanes. And if you read the history of Antiochus Epiphanes, it was torturous. All right. He just really, as we said, he killed 80,000 Jews, and 80,000 more, some he made slaves and some he sold. We know that everything about this prophecy was not fulfilled during the career of Antiochus Epiphanes. Jesus specifically said the real abomination of desolation was still in the future. Would you read for us Matthew 24:15?
Matthew 24, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand.
Yeah. So in other words, he was saying that what happened back there before he ever came wasn't the final fulfillment. All right. There, the god Zeus is put into the holy place, and there a pig is offered in sacrifice. All right. But Jesus said that is not the final thing. The final thing is still in the future. The Apostle Paul paraphrased Daniel 11:36 in reference to the coming Antichrist. Would you read for us 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4?
2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
So this is where the difference is going to be. The Antichrist is going to sit there and claim that he is God, whereas Antiochus Epiphanes is important, but mostly as a historical preview of the Antichrist. This is why so much space is given to describing the career of one evil man, because he prefigures the ultimate evil man. Antiochus Epiphanes is the trailer released well before the Antichrist, who is like the feature. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god. Antiochus Epiphanes certainly did this in a general sense, that all sinners oppose God, yet he remained loyal to Greek religious tradition, which revered the entire Olympian pantheon. Antiochus Epiphanes put a statue of Zeus in the temple, not of himself. The Antichrist is going to put himself there. This statement will be far more precisely fulfilled in the Antichrist, who sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That's yet in the future. And I might say, the rapture has not taken place yet, and it can't take place. All right. Or should I say the Great Tribulation can't take place. That's better to say that. All right. It can't take place till the man of sin, who is the Antichrist, is revealed. he has not yet been revealed. So no matter what kind of persecution takes place in this world and what happens, it is not the great tribulation. We're not in it. And I pray to God we aren't going to be in it. All right. They shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished. Antichrist will do much damage, but he is on a short chain and will only work into God's plan. God's purpose will be accomplished. Verses 37 to 39, which will tell us the character and the authority of this willful king who is the Antichrist.
Daniel 11 verses 37 to 39. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Verse 39, thus shall he do the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain.
All right. He shall regard neither the God of his fathers nor the desire of women. Based on this, some Bible scholars believe that Antichrist will be of Jewish descent. I am assured of it. I am assured that he is going to, just like Hitler, who killed so many Jews, really came from Jewish lineage, but he didn't want to admit it, and he went against them and killed them because he was listening to satanic leadership. So with this one, he doesn't regard the God of his fathers. It wouldn't talk like that if he were not a Jew, all right? Some say, nor the desire of women, that maybe he'll be a homosexual, but I think that rather than that, all right, the desire of women refers to Jesus, in that all women desired the honor of bearing the Messiah, and understanding desire as it is used in Haggai 2:7. Would you read that?
Yes, Haggai 2 verse 7. And I shall shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts.
Yeah. The desire of all nations is that same word, all right, shall come. And that's talking about the second coming of Jesus, all right? Not the rapture, but the second coming when he comes back to this earth, all right? Seeing the desire of women as Jesus makes a lot more sense in the light of the flow of context, all right? He shall honor a God of fortresses. The Antichrist will take, because the desire of the nations, all right, and the desire of the Jews was the Messiah. And he is like the false Messiah that's going to come. And this is why I believe that they're going to enter into this pact with him. That they wouldn't do that if he were just a Gentile without any relationship to the Jews. But the very fact that he does come from Jewish lineage, they're going to be taken in by him and actually look to him, thinking that he will help them gain what they wanted all along. All right. He shall honor a God of fortresses. The Antichrist will take and hold power with military might and shrewd use of great riches. And the Jews actually haven't really looked for a Messiah that will help them spiritually, but a Messiah that will help them get rid of their enemies and take the ground that really belongs to them. And, they're looking more for a political leader, which is what they're going to find in the Antichrist. Verse 40 to 45, the final conflict.
Daniel 11, verses 40 to 45. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like the whirlwind with chariots, and with horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter in also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but this shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. And he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. Verse 45. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas of the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him.
Yeah. So at the time of the end, the angel described to Daniel a confederation of kings coming against this great leader with a battle in and near the Holy Land. King of the south will attack him. King of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind. Prophetically speaking, a precise identification of peoples mentioned is difficult. Yes, this is like I told you earlier. All the other, we can very clearly say, this is this, because it's already happened. And it's already in history, and it agrees with everything that Daniel said. But the future is like any other prophecy. You can't be that sure what it's talking about because it's still in the future. All right. The king of the south may be Egypt or represent the Arab community. The king of the north may be the Antichrist domain as the new Antiochus Epiphanes, or it may be Russia. The precise points may be cloudy, but the general idea is clear. The end will be marked by great conflict, culminating in the world's armies gathering in the promised land to do final battle. Yet he shall come to his end, and no one will help him. In the end, there is no hope for Antichrist or for any of his followers. My own Bible reading in the New Testament, I'm in the book of Revelation. So just this morning, I was reading about that end time battle. It's going to be called Armageddon, all right, and how they're all going to come together, and they're going to be attacking, and it will be right around Jerusalem there, all right, and but it's going to be, and it says that Jesus is actually going to come. All right. He will come for the second time. What we need to realize is that the rapture is going to take place first. All right. Those who are the bride of Christ, all right, they will go up first. They are waiting. They are ready. They are keeping themselves clean and pure. All right. And again, I want to say there are three beliefs. All right. Pre-trib, meaning that the rapture will take place before the tribulation. Mid-trib, that the rapture takes place in the middle of the tribulation. And post-trib, meaning the rapture takes place after the whole of the tribulation. Now, you know, we wonder how there can be three different places, because they're all talked about in the Bible, every one of them. But like Jesus said, pray that you may escape all these things that are going to come to pass, and that you might be standing before him, that you'll be caught up to heaven. And from heaven, you will look down and see all these things taking place. Pray that you don't have to go through it. Yes, there are going to be people that go through and they might get caught up during mid, you know, they go up. And we know that from Revelation chapter 7. Gentiles, there's going to be a whole group, I mean, hundreds of thousands. All right, but it says no number. There's no number to these Gentiles that go up mid. I don't want to go up mid. You know, the rapture is given the name the blessed hope. I don't really see what blessed hope there is if we're looking forward to going through part of the tribulation. The tribulation is going to be, in fact, we're going to find out, I guess, I'm confused now whether it's going to come up in chapter 12 or if it's because I just read, but I just read in Revelation where it says it's a time of trial, you know, a time of tribulation that it's never been that bad before. There'll never be another time like it afterwards. It's going to be the great tribulation. So, you know, that is, to me, to have to go through any of it is not a blessed hope. The blessed hope is Jesus comes before and catches us away. And I'm praying that I will be ready. I will keep my garments clean, white, hallelujah, because I am going to be waiting for that to take place, all right? And in the end, Antichrist and the false prophet, they're not even going to go via death. They're going to go right down into that. They don't go to hell like everybody else goes to hell. And from hell, there is the great white throne judgment. All right. No, they don't. They're cast into the lake of fire, and they will burn from that day on forever and ever. All right. I think we will go ahead and stop here. This is the end of chapter 11. And let me see.
952. 52.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, I would, yeah, that's fine.
955 then.
No.
952?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna start on the second half. This chapter 12 is the last chapter of Daniel. It only has 13 verses. So when we're finished, we're finished, all right? We're not gonna say, well, it's time or not time. Whenever we finish, that's it. So this Daniel chapter 12 is going to be talking about Israel's time of trouble. It was the time of trouble. It's destined for Israel. It's a future time of trouble for Israel. All right. Would you read verse 1?
Yes. Daniel 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time, to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book.
All right. So at that time, Michael shall stand up. This does not mean that what is described in Daniel 12:1 happened immediately after what the events in Daniel 11:36 to 45 talked about. It means it happened in that same era. It doesn't mean the next minute it just carried. No. In that, during that time, or at that time. All right. Michael shall stand up. The angel, actually the archangel Michael, is often associated with spiritual battle. All right. Daniel, we're going to read several verses here. Daniel 10:13.
Daniel 10:13. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia.
All right, then that same chapter, verse 21.
Verse 21. But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth, and there is none that holdeth with me in these things, but Michael your prince.
So we see there that he's considered the angel, the archangel that was given to oversee and to guard and preserve the children of Israel. Jude 1:9.
Jude 1, verse 9. Yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, does not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee.
Yeah. So, and then Revelation 12:7.
Revelation 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels.
Yeah. So since Michael is called the archangel in Jude 1:9, he is Satan's true opposite. Satan is not the opposite of Jesus. He is the opposite of Michael, the high-ranking angel, all right, because Jesus is really God in the flesh, all right, who created the heavens and the earth and created all of the spiritual beings. So He's not the opposite of Jesus. He's the opposite of Michael, the archangel, on an equal par. But even then, Michael didn't dare to call funny names, look down, smart alecky. He said, "The Lord rebukes you," because he knew Satan was of the highest authority as far as the bad and so forth, and only God himself could deal with him. All right. He is the great prince, talking about Michael, who stands watch over the sons of your people. In addition to his role as a spiritual warrior, Michael had a special job in protecting Israel. God appointed Michael as a spiritual guardian over Israel. There shall be a time of trouble. This refers to the time of persecution for Israel and world calamity, which is known as the Great Tribulation. This period is also called the time of Jacob's trouble. Read for us Jeremiah 30, verse 7.
Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
Yeah. There's going to be this time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. The Jewish people have known many a time of trouble through their history, from the horrors at the fall of Samaria and Jerusalem to the terrors wrought by Antiochus Epiphanes, to the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans, to the persecutions from the church during the Dark Ages, to the pogroms of Europe. Now, I didn't understand that word, and maybe you don't either. So I looked it up in the dictionary, and it means planned killings, planned massacres, all right, and especially in line with the Jews. And it says to the 20th century Holocaust, which of course was during the Hitler's time. It often seems that all Israel's history has been a time of trouble. Yet this time of trouble will be different. This will be a worse time of trouble than Israel has ever seen before. Jesus quoted this passage in Matthew 24:21. Would you read that for us?
Yes. Matthew 24, verse 21. For there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be.
All right, so with great sadness, we must say that the Bible teaches that the worst is yet to come for Israel and the Jewish people. This phrase establishes its connection with the final or great tribulation above mentioned, for there can manifestly be only one time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Revelation 12:13-17.
Revelation 12:13 unto the earth. He persecuted the woman who brought forth a man-child, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
So this Revelation 12, 13 to 17 tells us what makes this time so terrible. It describes the fury of the devil directed against the Jewish people during this time. The trumpets, seals, and bowls of Revelation all described the horrific conditions of the world in general during this time. The Jewish people will be targets of the full fury of the devil and his Antichrist during this period, and will live in a world that is in incredible upheaval because of the judgment of God. The Jew has always been a target of Satan. He has sought to destroy them because he knew that God is ordained to accomplish his purposes through this nation. And thus Satan has attempted in times past to destroy the nation of Israel in order to thwart the purposes of God. At that time, your people shall be delivered. Every one who is found written in the book. Despite the terrors of the time, deliverance is assured. No matter how great the attack is against the Jewish people, God promises to preserve them. He will never break his promise to Abraham. Would you read for us Genesis 17, verse 7?
Sorry, Sister Seaward, which verse again?
Genesis 17, verse 7.
Which book again?
Genesis, the first book of the Bible. It's
Genesis
17, verse 7.
Genesis 17, verse 7. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee.
Yeah. So this is the covenant that he made with Abraham. He said that he would be their God, and not only to Abraham, but to his descendants after them. And we know that he'll never break. He calls it an everlasting covenant. So he says, everyone who is found written in the book. So we see the promise of deliverance is not for every last person of Jewish heritage, but for these who are found written in the book. Not every person of Jewish heritage will be saved, yet Israel as a nation, as a whole, will be known as a people who trust in Jesus as their Messiah and truly turn to the Lord. Would you read for us Romans 11, verse 25 to 27?
Romans 11, verses 25 to 27. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. Verse 27, for this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins.
So it says that they're spiritually blind right now, all right, until the fullness of the Gentiles. God is taking a bride for himself, and only when the last Gentile, we don't know when that is, after the last Gentile comes to God, then only he will turn to them. And I believe, all right, that it's after the rapture. When the rapture takes place, all right, then he's going to start dealing with the Jews again. And God's purpose is that the whole of Israel, all right, the whole nation is going to come to God, because Jesus will come back again. But now that doesn't mean they all believe, all right, because many of them, as we were told, they're going to turn after this false Messiah. They're going to believe in that, and those will not be saved, but those who turn to Jesus, all right, will be saved. Okay, the resolution of resurrection, verse 2, the resurrection of the dead.
Daniel 12, verse 2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
All right. Now, when it says many of those who sleep shall awake, it's meaning not everyone at that time. All right. There's going to be resurrection, and we're going to see there are two major resurrections. All right. It says some think this refers to the resurrection of Israel as a nation. No, but the plainest meaning is that it refers to the resurrection of the body in general. Some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. The Bible clearly teaches there are two resurrections, one for the saved and one for the damned. Would you read for us John 5:29?
John 5, verse 29. And shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation.
There are two separate resurrections, all right? Revelation 20, verse 4-6. This is even more clear.
Revelation 20, verses 4-6. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads, nor in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again, until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Verse 6, and blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such a second death had no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with 1,000 years. Reign with him 1,000 years.
Yeah. If we really believed every one of us would live forever, it would profoundly change our life. Everlasting contempt. So It's called the first resurrection and the second resurrection. All right. The first resurrection takes place 1,000 years before the second resurrection. All right. It will be clear into the, it's before the millennial reign, and also, but all the way through to the end of Antichrist's rule and reign. Those who die or are killed during that time, they are resurrected in the first resurrection, but the second, they're raised to everlasting contempt. The terror of hell never ends. This is not blissful annihilation after some period of punishment. As this says, the passage denies a rising doctrine within the church, a modified annihilationism that teaches that unjustified sinners are sent to hell and they suffer torment for a while, but then their beings perish for eternity. In other words, they will be annihilated. They'll just be, won't exist anymore. That's a lie. There is no such thing taught in the Bible. All right. Revelation 20, verse 10. Would you read that?
Revelation 20, verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Yeah. So, when the Antichrist and the false prophet are cast into the lake of fire, actually the devil will be put into the bottomless pit. Then comes the 1,000-year reign of Christ here on earth. And that second resurrection only takes place after that 1,000 years. And when the devil is loosed and then later taken and cast into the lake of fire, where the beast and the false prophet were cast in 1,000 years earlier. All right, now after 1,000 years of being locked up, he's set loose for a while, and then he's thrown into that same lake of fire. It talks about the Antichrist and the false prophet, where they are. It doesn't say where they were, where they are, and they burn forever and ever, ever and ever. All right. There would be no possible way in the Greek language to state more emphatically the everlasting punishment of the lost than here in mentioning both day and night, the expression forever and ever, literally to the ages of ages. All right. Many of those that sleep in the dust shall awake. The scriptures as a whole teach us that there are not only many resurrected, there is evidence that the Hebrew word for many in that Daniel verse 2, 12:2, can also be used for all. The emphasis is not upon many as opposed to all. All right. Many of those, meaning not all of them. There's only a certain amount of them, but it's many. It's not just one or two. There's going to be a lot that come forth, but there's a lot that don't go in that first resurrection. All right. As well, the Bible states that all are raised, but not all at the same time or in the same manner. All right. Verse 3, a promise for the righteous. Would you read that for us, please?
Yes, Daniel 12, verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go back to verse 2 again. You know, in the Old Testament, and now remember, Daniel was written during that Babylonian captivity, which is hundreds of years, all right, before everything else. And then there's been about almost, I would say, close to 3,000 years since then has taken place while the Lord is, you know, perfecting and picking out a people for himself. In the Old Testament, things weren't very clear, like here in chapter 12:2, many that sleep in the dust will awake. It's talking about a resurrection, some to everlasting life, some to shame, but it's not. We only find out through the New Testament that there is 1,000 years difference between the two. In the Old, it just talks about there's going to be this resurrection, but there's actually two of them separated by 1,000-year period. All right, but now talking about those that are the righteous ones, that are the wise ones, that listened to God, did things God's way, all right, they're going to shine, okay? Those who live in God's wisdom will shine. Despite the entire calamity, all the difficulty coming on Israel, God has those who are wise, and they shall shine. They are those who turn many to righteousness, like the stars. In other words, because of the light that they have, God has given them light, and that light shines through their life. They turn many, all right, to righteousness. The wise among God's people are those who turn many to righteousness. We can learn something from this. We don't have to wait until we come down to the end time. We're in the end time now. But if we're wise, then we should be concentrating not on how to get rich and what to do with our money and how to live more comfortably and how to eat better. That should not be. Our concern should be to live a life that will cause people to see Jesus in us and turn them away from their bad ways and turn them to God, all right? All God's people are like stars in the sense that they radiate light and help others to see and find their way. We're talking about spiritual light. Certainly those who turn many to righteousness shine even more brightly, helping even more people to see the light and find their way. The promise applies to all the wise and all of those who turn many to righteousness through all ages. But it may have its most specific application to the 144 evangelists from Israel's tribes during the tribulation in Revelation 7. All right, that's the 144,000. And I've told you before, I couldn't believe that. You mean out of the Jews, there's only 144,000? No, and God opened my eyes to see that it is talking about the 1,000. 1,000 means putting God first in their life, and 12 for the 12 is spiritual discipline. They're under spiritual discipline, They put God first in their lives. And so that's what this 144,000 stand for. And they're the bride of Christ out of the tribulation period. They're going to be all Jewish believers that go and are caught up before anything takes place. All right. For they will shine forever and ever. The brightness of God's wise men or wise ones, and those who turn many to righteousness will last forever. It isn't fading, it endures. When so many other things that we put our effort into, even if they succeed, give only a temporary shine. It is worth it to invest our lives into the things that last forever and ever. Conclusion of the book, verse 4, instructions to seal the book.
Daniel 12, verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
All right, to shut up the words implied that the words should be kept safely until the time when they were needed. Seal the book has the double sense of authenticating the message. In other words, to seal it that these are the words of God, and also preserving it until the time of the end. Daniel's prophecy certainly was of some value in his own day, but there would come a day, the time of the end, when his prophecy would be of even more importance. Therefore, it was important to shut up the words, seal the book until the time of the end, because when Daniel was here on earth, it was several thousand years before this time. All right. Now, this is that I'm going to read to you is written by Adam Clarke, a commentator, in 1825. We're now in the year 2024, but this was written in 1825. We must wait till the time of the end. And this, it appears from the following calculations, will not arrive before the 20th century. We here see the reason why these prophecies are at present so imperfectly understood, because God has sealed them. And that's true, all right. In the 20th century, we began to understand things a lot more than what they understood in the 1800s. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Here Daniel describes a characteristic of the time of the end. Many take this prediction as being fulfilled in travel. That's the way I take it. They shall run to and fro. We've never seen a time when people traveled more. I mean, ordinary people that travel around the world, you never heard of that before. You had your explorers, you had, rich people and so forth. But today, people are running to and fro. You go to the airport, you see it's just jammed with people and information. When it says knowledge shall increase, information explosions of our modern day. We know more today than we knew. So many things that were like in secret before, that just people didn't understand it, yet today they understand. All right. Shut up the words and seal the book. Daniel has revealed enough to us so that the book really can be sealed. From Daniel 11:36 to Daniel 12:3, what do we see? We see a world ruler utterly opposed to God. We see a world religion based on the abomination of desolation. We see a world war which defeats the ruler, a time of great tribulation for Israel lasting 3.5 years, deliverance for the people of God after the tribulation, resurrection and judgment, and the reward of the righteous. All of this, all right, all of this we could see, all right, God has kept it for us, and now we understand it. Verses 5 to 7, how long will the time of trouble be?
Daniel 12, verses 5 to 7. And I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? Verse 7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished.
All right, two others, one on this riverbank and the other on that riverbank. Daniel is back to the riverbank that was first mentioned in Daniel 10:4. Would you read that for us?
Daniel 10, verse 4. And in the 24th day of the first month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel.
And we're told in another rendering that's what is known as the Tigris River. All right. The visions of Daniel 10 through 12 all took place as Daniel stood at this river bank. One said to the man clothed in linen, how long shall the fulfillment of these wonders be? Seemingly, these other men on the riverbank were angels. One angel asked the other. It wasn't for the benefit of the angel, it was for Daniel's benefit and for our benefit. He held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever. In a solemn oath, one angel announced that the time of trouble would last 3.5 years, a time, times, and half a time. The prediction was emphasized by the solemn oath and made by the miracle that accompanied the words. Who was above the waters in the river? The angel walked on water when he told the other angel and Daniel that these things would happen within a 3.5 year period. A time, times, and half a time. This 3.5 year period is well known in other passages of biblical prophecy. Would you read for us Daniel 7:25?
Daniel 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times, and the dividing time.
This describes it as a period that saints are given into the Antichrist's hands. Daniel 9:27.
Daniel 9 verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate.
So this Daniel 9:27 described it as the period between the breaking of Antichrist's covenant with Israel and the erection of the abomination of desolation and the establishment of Jesus' kingdom. Daniel 12:7.
Daniel 12:7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished.
So 12:7 described it as the duration of the time of trouble, Jacob's trouble for Israel. Revelation 11:2.
Revelation 11 verse 2. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months.
Yeah. So it's described as the period that the holy city will be tread underfoot by the Gentiles. All right. Revelation 11:3.
Revelation 11:3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth.
Described as the period of ministry for the 2 witnesses. Revelation 12:6 and 14.
Revelation 12:6 and 14. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, and that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times, and half a time from the face of the serpent.
All right. It's described as the period that Israel, perhaps only its remnant, is preserved by God in the wilderness. 13:5 of Revelation.
Revelation 13 verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Yeah, so this describes it as the duration of Antichrist's authority to rule, persecute, and blaspheme. Taking all these together, we are obviously dealing with the last half of Daniel's 70 weeks. You know, we said they've already fulfilled 69 weeks. And then there's 1 week that had not yet come. All right. So God's dealing, and that's when Jesus came to this earth. They rejected him. They didn't want him. So God sets them over, you know, puts them like to one side, quits dealing with them as a nation, and when all this time, finally, he picks them up again for this last week, which is 7 years. But this is the last half of that 70th week, the 3.5. The first 3.5, they still believe in this guy, the Antichrist, thinking that he is their political Messiah. But all of the 3.5 talking about the Great Tribulation, that will be the last 3.5 years. All right. We know very little about that first half. When the power of the holy people have been completely shattered, all these things shall be finished. The people of Israel will seem completely crushed as these things end. But at that time, the Messiah, upon whom they will trust before he returns, will return. In other words, Jesus will come that second time to rescue them. Verse 8, Daniel's last question. How will it all turn out? Verse 8, would you read it?
Yes. Daniel 12, verse 8. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things?
Although I heard, I did not understand. This comforts us. Daniel didn't understand it all either, even though he heard it first hand. All right. He asks, all right, what shall be the end of these things? All right. He asked this question because he was anxious. Perhaps, all right, he was anxious as he understood how terrible the time of trouble would be. 9 to 13 gives us the answer.
Daniel 12, verses 9 to 13. And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the end, till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,330 days. Verse 13. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days.
This will only be fully understood at that time, because it says from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, then it gives 1,290. All right, something's going to happen at that time. Those that live at that time, they will read this, they will understand it, and as soon as that takes place, they can start counting. All right, but it says, blessed is he who waits to the 1,335 days. All right. So they don't try to explain this. There's no way we can understand it. We're not living at that time. All right. But something's going to happen. But it says, go your way, Daniel. The command to go your way is literally merely to go, but it is not meant physically. The angel told Daniel to make a mental departure from the questioning. More details would be revealed later, but Daniel must be content with what God has revealed thus far. For the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. At that time, God knew there was almost 3,000 years yet to go. And therefore, Daniel had to make a mental departure. He wouldn't have understood everything that took place. So he's told to make a mental departure from his questioning, because the revealing of these things will not come till the time of the end. Until then, there is a sense in which these prophecies are closed up and sealed. We shouldn't think that there's no instruction, no blessing, no benefit in these words for any generation until the time of the end. But the meaning of these prophecies would be less mysterious at the time of the end. All right. The massive interest in prophecy and the incredible development in understanding biblical prophecy in the last 150 years should make us see that we truly are in the time of the end. All right. Additionally, when we look at church history, we see that God has successfully had church focus, the church to focus on specific areas of doctrine at different periods. All right. For example, in the 2nd century through the 4th century, the church focused on the doctrine of Scripture. In the 4th century, the focus was on the doctrine of God in the Trinity. In the 5th century, the focus was on the doctrine of Christ. In the 5th through 7th centuries, the focus was on the doctrine of man. In the 15th and 17th centuries, the focus was on the doctrine of salvation. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the focus was on the doctrine of the church. So it should not surprise us that it was not until the 19th and 20th centuries, the time of the end, that the focus would turn upon the doctrine of last things and the return of Jesus. It says, many shall be purified, made white, and refined. This is another prediction for what was future to Daniel, because this degree of purification is only possible after the finished work of Jesus on the cross of Calvary. But the wicked shall do wickedly. Most specifically, we would say that this prediction has to do with the end times, when wickedness will abound more than ever, as in the Antichrist and his government. But an innumerable multitude will also be saved, as it is seen in Revelation 7, 9 to 10. Would you read that for us?
Revelation 7, verses 9 to 10. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which is seated upon the throne, and unto the Lamb.
Yeah. So we see that these, by the way, when you're reading the book of Revelation, the bride who is known as the first fruits, will be a numbered group. So every group that is numbered, whereas this is not. All right, this is which no man could number. There's no number given to them. These will be the Gentiles that are saved during that terrible time. and during the tribulation, they're saved and they wash their robes. They weren't ready, perhaps, during the time when the rapture took place, all right? From the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, the abomination of desolation set up, there shall be 1,290 days. This was an amazingly specific prophecy. Daniel said that from the time the abomination of desolation, you can simply start marking off your calendar to the final consummation of all things, 1,290 days later. That is not the one before Jesus came. That is the one at the time of the Antichrist, all right? From the time, the middle of the thing, you number off 1,290 days later. This is why Jesus pointed to Daniel's prophecy of the abomination of desolation as the sign that would mark the immediacy of his return. Read for us Matthew 24:15.
Matthew 24:15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand.
Yes, so it's definitely a sign that he is coming soon. But blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335. So it's difficult to say what the relationship is between 3.5 years mentioned in many places and the 1,335 days mentioned here. All right. We could say at the end of the 1,260, Jesus returns. At the end of the 1,290 days, Jesus' government is officially installed. At the end of the 1,335 days, the nations are judged. All right. But I would rather not say. This is what they suggest. I don't plan to be alive during that time. If we are alive at that time, then we will better understand. All right. But go your way till the end. Daniel's mind was filled with exciting, frightening, prophetic thoughts. Perhaps it was easy for those things to become a distraction instead of a blessing to him. So the angel concluded with an important reminder. Go your way till the end. All right. God had a course and he wanted Daniel to complete, and Daniel needed to remain focused on that. At the end of the Gospel of John, Jesus told Peter about his destiny to die as a martyr for Jesus. Peter wanted to know about John's destiny, so he asked Jesus, "What about John?" Essentially, Jesus replied, "It's none of your business. You follow me." Would you read John 21:22?
Yes, John 21:22. Jesus said unto him, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me.
Yeah. He has a way for everyone to go. All right. And we're just to mind our own business. Don't worry about things that don't pertain to ourselves. In the same way, Daniel was not to spend all his time and energy speculating and worrying about things he couldn't know. Instead, he should simply obey the word, to go your way till the end. And that is something we must all do. All right. Adam Clark, who was from the 1800s, said about this, go your way till the end. Every man has his way to go. Every man has an end. There is a rest provided for the people of God, and there is an inheritance for the people of God. And as we keep our eyes on that, Lord, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to? Yes, we can think about prophecy, yes, but only in the light of that it will help us to keep focused that Jesus is coming soon to catch away his waiting bride. And may each and every one of us be part of that bride. May we start living in a way that shows we are making ourselves ready by staying holy, staying under the blood, keeping our eyes on the Lord and letting him guide and direct us. So that is the end of our book of Daniel. God is good. Amen. Thank you, Sister Rita, for reading for us, and may we bow our heads in a word of prayer. Lord, I thank you for going through this book of Daniel. I don't know about them, but I've learned so very much, Lord. And may we, even in this last portion, when we don't fully understand everything, if it's not meant to be understood because it's down at the very end of things, we leave that to you. But that which pertains to us, where we need to get ourselves ready, it says in Revelation, the bride has made herself ready. And that is keeping ourselves under the blood of Jesus, keeping our eyes on the Lord and doing what he has sent us to do, and that is to let his light shine to the whole world, wherever we are, to let your spiritual light shine through our living, through our attitudes, through our mannerisms, through our deeds, that people will see that we're different than others, and they will want to know. Oh God, help us now, I pray. Keep our feet on the solid rock, Christ Jesus. And may we ever look forward to that blessed hope that you are coming again to catch away those that are waiting for you, living for you. Thank you, Jesus. In thy name I pray. Amen. Thank you all for showing up. This is the last Saturday that there will be class this year. All right. There will be class next Tuesday. It will be the last Tuesday, but there will be class next Tuesday, which is the 24th. That will be the last Tuesday class for this year. God bless. Amen.